My name is Hassan Nizar and I'm presenting the movie Dongju, the Portrait of a Poet. The Portrait of a Poet is directed by Lee Jun-ik. He is a well-known South Korean director, famous for his historical drama movies such as The King and the Clown and The Throne. Dongju was his passion project, shot on a modest budget considering that this is a period movie. The movie was shot in black and white to emphasize historical weight, emotional stillness, and to highlight the absence of freedom during the era. In this photo, we can see Kang Han-yul, Park Jong-min, and Lee Jun-ik. The movie was released in February 2016 in Korean and Japanese. Movie's budget was 500 million won, which equates to about 350,000 US dollars. The movie was awarded the Grand Bell Awards for Best Director and Best New Actor. It was also South Korea's official submission for the 2017 Academy Awards, however it was not nominated. The film features Kang Han-yul as Yoon Dong-ju, who is a sensitive poet navigating oppression through his poems, Park Jung-min as Song Mong-gyu, who is Dong-ju's cousin and much more vocal, radical, and politically active. The contrast between their ideology shows how diverse the Korean resistance was. One is resisting through poetry and the other through action. The movie, set during Japan's brutal occupation, follows Yoon Dong-ju, a poet who writes to preserve his people's soul. In a world where Korean is forbidden, his notebook becomes an act of rebellion. His cousin Mong-gyu fights more openly, but Dong-ju's defiance is subtler and quieter. Arrested in 1943, he dies in prison at 27. Officially, it was illness, but many believe his death was due to abuse. The film, like his poems, does not cry out, it whispers, and in doing so, it echoes. From 1910 to 1945, Korea was under Japanese colonial rule, a time when speaking Korean publicly was banned. Traditional names were replaced with Japanese ones, and all forms of cultural expressions were censored. Yoon Dong-ju was born in 1917. He, like many young intellectuals of the time, turned to poetry not just as art, but as resistance. His verses were quiet rebellions written in the shadows. In 1943, he was arrested in Japan for so-called anti-Japanese activities, likely for the simple act of writing Korean poetry. 2 years later, he died in prison under mysterious circumstances. After his death, his poems were finally published in 1948. Today, they are studied in Korean schools, his voice becoming a symbol of cultural survival and poetic resistance. Dongju may have been silenced, but his words still echo. The film has black and white cinematography to heighten film's sense of memory, mourning, and internal silence. The limited budget meant that there were fewer sets, camera movements, minimal lighting, but these choices end up enhancing the stillness and intensity of the movie. The director wanted viewers to feel as if they were reading a poem on screen. Some themes and symbolism in the movie were resistance through art, writing as a form of protest when speech is forbidden, silence as defiance, the long pauses and empty spaces reflect a silenced culture, youth under pressure, a generation of students caught between duty and dreams, poetry as memory, Yoon's verses hold a nation's grief and longing. His work, especially "Forward" and "Sky, Wind, and Stars", are now literary treasures. The film taught me that resistance doesn't always look like rebellion. Sometimes it looks like a notebook hidden in a drawer. I learned how art, especially poetry, can preserve truth when everything else is erased. I felt how fear and dignity can coexist in the same person. And most of all, I understood that a soft voice can still speak loudly across generations. Thank you.